Hello, everybody. My name is Michael. Welcome back. Hope you're having a wonderful day. All right, we are streaming here. We are doing data structures and algorithms today. Discord. Let me load up the Discord and announce it here. Where'd you go? Download updates here. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on with the data structure and algorithms class. So what we were talking about here was implemented this vector class. They're trying to do dunder add operator overloading onto overriding onto these methods or these class vectors and summing them together basically through the dunder add method. Um, so then, all right, so let's start here. We implement many of the behaviors by trivially invoking a similar behavior on the underlying list of coordinates. However, our implementation of dunder add is customized. Assuming the two operands are vectors and the same length, this method creates a new vector that sets the coordinates of the new vector to be equal to the respective sum of the operand elements, right? It is interesting to note that the class definition as given in code fragment 2.4 automatically supports the syntax u equals v plus 5, 3, 10, negative 2, and 1, resulting in a new vector that is element by element sum of the first vector and the list in the instance. This is a result of Python's polymorphism. Literally, polymorphism means many forms. Although it is tempting to think of the other parameter as although it is tempting to think of the other parameter of our dunder add method as another vector instance, we never declared it as such. Within the body, the only behaviors we rely on for the parameter other is that it supports length of other and access to other index j. Therefore, our code executes when the right-hand operand is a list of numbers without a matching length. So if length is not equal to this, is not equal to other, so okay. Iterators. Iteration is an important concept in the design of data structures. We introduced Python's mechanism for iteration in section 1.8. In short, an iterator for collection provides one key behavior. It supports a special method named dunderNext that returns the next element of the collection, if any, or raises a stop iteration exception to indicate that there are no other further elements. Fortunately, it is rare to directly implement an iterator class. Our preferred approach is the use of the generator syntax, also described in section 1.8, which automatically produces an iterator of yielded values. Python also helps by providing an automatic iterator implementation for any class that defines both len and get item. To provide an instructive example of how low-level iterator code fragment 2.5 demonstrates just such an iterator class that works on any collection that supports both length and get item. This class can be instantiated as sequence iterator data. It operates by keeping an internal reference to the data sequence as well as a current index into the sequence. Each time dunderNext is called, the index is incremented until reaching the end of the sequence. So an iterator for Python sequence types, right? You initialize the self and the sequence. You assign the sequence to a self underscore sequence, and then you assign it to a of -1, so that the next element will be 0 when called, right? Next is you just increment k. If k is less than the length of the sequence, you return the sequence with at position k, else you raise stop iterator, right? So if you can continue going, you do, else you raise the stops. All right, interesting. As an example for this section, we develop our own implementation of the class that mimics Python's built-in range class. As the final example for this section, we develop our own implementation of a class that mimics Python's built-in range class. Before introducing our class, we discussed the history of the built-in version. Prior to Python 3 being released, range was implemented as a function, and it returned a list instance with 2 elements in the specific range. For example, range 2, 10 with a skip of 2, a step of 2, return the list 2, 4, 6, 8, right? However, a typical use of the function was to support a for loop syntax such as for k in range 1 million versus 10 million, 2, 3, 10 million, right? Unfortunately, this caused the instantiation and initialization of a list with the range of numbers. That was an unnecessarily expensive step in terms of both time and memory usage. The mechanism used to support ranges in Python 3 is entirely different. To be fair, the new behavior exists in Python 2 under the same X range. It uses a strategy known as lazy evaluation. Rather than creating a new list instance, range is a class that can effectively represent the desired range of elements without ever storing them explicitly in memory. To better explore the built-in range class, we recommend that you create an instance of R equals range 8 to 140 with a skip of 5. The result is a relatively lightweight object, an instance of the range class that has only a few behaviors. The syntax length R will report the number of elements that are given in the range, right? So in Python 3, you do this lazy evaluation where when you call the range object, you get return a range object, right? And then you can call length on it to get all the objects within that length of the range. But I guess before you would get a list returned to you. The result is relative. Okay, we'll report the number of elements that are in the given range 27 for this example. A range also supports the dunderGetItem method, so that the syntax R of 15 reports index 15 reports the 16th element in the range as R0 is the first element. Yeah. Because the class supports both dunderLength and dunderGetItem, it inherits automatic support for iteration, which is why it's possible to execute a for loop over range. At this point, we already demonstrated our very own version of such a class. Code fragment 2.6 provides a class we name range so as to clearly differentiate it from a built-in range. The biggest challenge in implementation is properly computing the number of elements that belong in the range given the parameters sent by the caller when constructing a range. By computing that value in the constructor and storing it as self.dunder_length, it becomes trivial to return it from the length method. The biggest challenge in implementation is properly computing the number of elements that belong in the range, given the parameters sent by the caller when constructing the range. By computing that value in the constructor and storing it as self._length, it becomes trivial to return it from the length method. To properly implement a call to get item of k, we simply take the starting value of the range plus k times the step size. So to execute the get item, right, for the next method elements, we simply take the starting value of the range. So if it was like 0 plus k times the step. So 1 times the step of 1, so of 1, okay, yeah. for k because we return the start value. There are a few subtleties worth examining in the code. To properly support operational parameters, we rely on the technique described on page 27 when discussing a functional version of range. We compute the number of elements in the range as max 0 start minus step plus stop minus start plus step minus 1 divided by step. It is worth testing this formula for both positive and negative step sizes. The dunderget item method properly supports negative indices by converting an index negative k to length self minus k before computing the result. Okay, so let's evaluate this class then. So we have the range class, a class that mimics the built-in range. So when you initialize it, you give a self, you give a start, a stop, none, and a step automatic of 1, right? If the start is equal to 0, raise value or a step cannot be 0, okay? If stop is equal to none, start, stop equals 0, start. Okay. So when you assign this length, basically calculate the effective length once. So you determine the max value between 0 and stop minus start. So your stop would be like, let's say 10, minus start would be 0, so 10 plus step would be 1, so 11 minus 1, 10, so 10 would be divided by step would be 1, so this would just give 10 here, right? So max 0 to 10 would give you your length of 10, right? Because you want the max number. Interesting. So this just, like I said, it calculates the effective length once, right? So you determine the maximum amount, the maximum number in the incremented list. This is the range right here. So then you assign start and stop to their integer, to their respective things. Length returns self the underscore length, right? Because that is the actual length. Get item self k if k is less than 0. If we're starting at k at, right? Because when we initialize k at negative 1. Where was it? Okay. No. Inheritance. Okay, a natural way to organize various structural components of a software package is a hierarchical fashion, with similar abstract definitions grouped together in a level-by-level manner that goes from specific to more general as one traverses out the hierarchy. An example of such a hierarchy is shown in Figure 2.4, using mathematical notations. The set of houses is a subset, and the set of buildings the set of houses is a subset of buildings, but a superset of the set of ranches. Right? House, ranch, right? House is here. House is a subset of the set of buildings, but a superset of the ranches. Yep. The correspondence between levels is often referred to as and is a relationship, as a house is a building and a ranch is a house. A ranch is a house and a house is a building, but a house is not a ranch. A ranch is not a building. A building is. Well, I think it's for vice versa. Okay, an example of it is a hierarchy involving. Okay, gotcha. A hierarchical design is useful in software development, as common functionality can be grouped at the most general level, thereby promoting reusable code, while differentiated behaviors can be viewed as extensions of the general case. In object-oriented programming, the mechanism for a modular and hierarchical. Gina, how do you say this word? Hierarchical. Hierarchy. hierarchical. I cannot pronounce this. Hierarchical. I know it's hierarchy, but how do you say a call? Hierarchical. Hierarchical organization is a technique known as inheritance. Yep. This allows a new class to be defined based upon an existing class at the starting point. In object-oriented terminology, the existing class is typically described as the base class, parent class, or superclass, while the newly defined class is the subclass or child class. There are two ways in which a subclass can be differentiate itself from its superclass. A subclass may have specialized an existing behavior, providing a new implementation that overrides an existing method. A subclass may also extend its superclass by providing new brand methods. Python's exception hierarchy. All right, so another example of rich inheritance hierarchy is the organization of various exception types in Python. We introduced many of these classes in section 1.7, but did not discuss their relationship with each other. Figure 2.5 illustrates a small portion of that hierarchy. The base exception class is the root of the entire hierarchy, while the more specific exception class includes most of the error types that we have discussed. Programmers are welcome to define their own specialized exception classes to denote errors that may occur in the context of their application. Those user-defined exception types should be declared as subclasses of exception. Okay, so extending the credit card class. To demonstrate the mechanisms for inheritance in Python, we revisit the credit card class of section 2.3. Implementing a subclass that, for lack of a better name, we call predatory credit card. The new class will differ from the original in two ways. If an attempted charge is rejected because it would have exceeded the credit limit, a $5 fee will be charged, and there will be mechanisms for assessing a monthly interest charge on the outstanding balance based upon annual percentage rate specified as a constructor parameter. Okay, so we're just going to create a child credit card, basically, or predatory credit card class that now adds in a fee associated with overdrafts, and then an interest rate based on the balance that is unique from before. So in accomplishing this goal, we demonstrate the techniques of specialization and extension. To charge a fee for an invalid charge attempt, we override the existing charge method, thereby specializing it to provide the new functionality. Although the new version takes advantage of a call to the overridden version to provide support for charging interest, we extend the class with a new method named processMonth. So in credit card class, we have all of these, right? And then we're adding on this instance variable self dot underscore APR, which is the interest rate for the credit card. And then we're adding these methods, process month, and then charge with the price. So figure 2.6 provides an overview of our use of inheritance in designing the new predatory credit card class. Code fragment 2.7 gives a complete Python implementation of that class. To indicate that a new class inherits from existing credit card class, we define our definitions begin with the syntax class, predatory credit card, and then credit card. We're going to create the class predatory credit card, and we're going to take from the original credit card class. The body of the new class provides three member functions: init, charge, and process month. The dunder init constructor serves as a very similar role to the original credit card constructor, except that for our new class, there is an extra parameter to specify the annual percentage rate. The body of our new constructor relies upon making a call to the inherited constructor to perform most of the initialization. Right, that APR is the new instance variable. The body of our new constructor relies upon making a call to the inherited constructor to perform most of the initialization. In fact, everything other than the recording of our percentage rate. The mechanism for calling the inherited constructor relies upon the super, syntax super function, specifically at the line 15 in the command. So line 15, right, we call super on the init method for this initialization, and we take customer bank account and limit from the previous credit card class, the parent. Super init customer bank, yeah, calls the dunder init method that was inherited from the credit card superclass. Note well that this method only accepts 4 parameters. We record the APR value in a new field named dun_APR. In similar fashion, our predatory class provides a new implementation of the charge method that overrides the inherited method. Yet, our implementation of the new method relies on a call to the inherited method. With syntax supercharge price at line 24, the return value of that call. Okay, so hold on. In similar fashion, our predatory card class provides a new implementation of the charge method, right? So we have this new charge where we take in a price, we super the success variable from the the parent class, and then we say if there isn't a success, right? If this isn't valid, we can't make this purchase. It's over our balance. We're going to increase our balance by 5 um, because it's over our limit, right? So this charge function is going to take in a price. It's going to try to assess whether that price can be added onto our balance if um, if it meets our credit limit. And then if it can't do that, then it's going to add on $5 to our balance. So you can actually go over your limit with fees, which is nuts in this case. But that's pretty normal for most credit cards. Yet our implementation of the new method relies on a call to the inherited method with syntax super function charge price at line 24. The return value of that call designates whether the charge was successful. We examine that return value to decide whether as to assess a fee, and in turn we return the value to the caller of the method so that the new version of charge has a similar outward interface as the original. The process_month method is a new behavior, so there is no inherited version upon which to rely, right? We have this process inherited month, but we just take in self. There is no super happening here. It's unique to this subclass. The process_month method is new behavior, so there's no inherited version upon which to rely. In our model, this method should be invoked by the bank once each month to add new interest charges to the customer's balance. The most challenging aspect of implementing this method is making sure we have a working knowledge of how annual percentage rates translate to a monthly rate. We do not simply divide the annual rate by 12 to get a monthly rate. That would be too predatory, as it would result in a higher APR than advertised. The correct computation is to take the 12th root of 1 plus the self_APR and use that as the multiplicative factor. So this might seem like technical jargon, but this is just internal knowledge to calculate APRs on a monthly basis based on your current balance. So what it's doing was you have your APR, let's say your APR is 8.25%, so you convert that to decimal by moving your decimal place over 2 places to the left. That gives you a leading zero of 0.0825, right? So that would end up in the self APR position here. So then you add 1 to that, and then you take the 12th root, and then this value here you would multiply this by is about 1.006628, and therefore charge of interest per month. In this way, each $100 of debt will amass $8.25 of compounded interest in a year. Representing a 8.25% I'm trying to figure out how they converted this back into a percent. So they clearly point. They just minus one for. No, they didn't do that. What'd they do? 1.006628 times 100 would be 100. No. I'm gonna put this into Mr. Jibbity and see what he says. I want him to explain this. This is a method describing converting an annual percentage rate into a monthly interest rate for use in compound interest calculations. Understanding APR and monthly. APR is the total interest rate for a year, assuming no compounding. To calculate the monthly compounding rate that matches the APR, the 12th root of 1 plus APR is taken to ensure that compounding the monthly rate over 12 periods results in the stated APR. 1 plus APR gives 1.0825. Take the 12th root, that gives us that. This gives us the monthly interest rate as a multiplicative factor, 1.06628, right? 0.06628, meaning an increase of approximately. Okay, yeah. So you just multiply this by your balance to get your new balance on top of that. So over 12 months, multiplying by 1.006628 repeatedly is equivalent to raising to the 12th power, which aligns with the stated APR. For every $100 of debt, after 1 month, you multiply it by that, your multiplicative factor, to get your new balance with your interest rate tacked on. And then you just keep doing this. After 12 months, you'll have $108 of total debt. Yeah, okay, cool. That was a little refresher on APR rates. But kind of not needed in this case. But hello, thanks for joining. If you're there, I appreciate you coming in and studying with me. Feel free to follow along to the channel if you want to keep reading these books with me and working on the projects that I've been doing in Python. Please check out my GitHub for the task tracker that I finished. It's my first project I launched on GitHub, so go ahead and check that out. So protected members. Our predatory credit card class subclass subclass directly accesses the data member self._balance, which was an established part of the parent credit card class. The underscore name by convention suggests that it's a non-public member. So we might ask, is it okay that we access it in this fashion? While general users of the class should not be doing so, our subclass has a somewhat privileged relationship with a superclass. Several object-oriented languages draw a distinction for non-public members and allowing declarations of protected or private access modes. Members that are declared as protected are accessible to subclasses and are not to the general public, while members that are declared as private are not accessible to either. In this respect, we are using underscore balance as if it were protected but not private. So in Python, we have no way of distinguishing protected or private variables. So by convention, we give it this underscore, leading underscore, to show that we don't want users to be able to override this variable name, that it's critical to maintaining its form. Now, it's serving as a private or as a protected variable in this case that you could assign in these other languages, but not a private one. Python does not support formal access control, but names beginning with a single underscore are conventionally akin to protected, while names beginning with a double underscore other than special methods are akin to private. In choosing to use protected data, we have created a dependency that our predatory credit card class might be compromised if the author of the credit card class were to change the internal design. Note that we could have relied upon the the public get underscore balance method to retrieve the current balance within the process month method, but the current design of the credit card class does not afford an effective way for a subclass to change the balance, other than by direct manipulation of the data member. Um, it may be tempting to use a charge to add fees or interest to the balance. However, that method does not allow the balance to go above the customer's credit limit, even though a bank would presumably let interest compound beyond the credit limit if warranted. If we were to redesign the original credit card class, we might add a non-public method, dunder underscore set underscore balance, that could be by a subclass to effect a change without directly accessing the data member underscore balance. All right, I'm back. Sorry. If we redesign the original credit card class, we might add a non-public method underscore set balance that could be used by subclasses to effect a change without directly accessing the underscore balance. Okay, so I think this is a good spot. We'll stop here at page 87. Okay. Hello, Austin. Appreciate you coming in and leaving a comment. Thank you. Hey man, how's the journey going? It's going good. Just reading the book here, and then I think I'm gonna jump into some code here for the next half hour, and then I think I'm gonna work on a YouTube video for the channel, and yeah. So let's go ahead and load this up. Okay. So last time we worked on this, let me make the font smaller. Okay, so last time we worked on this, I created this item class, which takes in has all these parameters, right? Item name, a cost of the good, an item size, right? An item number, a date created, and a quantity. So so then we have some required attributes, right? These ones are the three that are up top, right? We require these ones to be set. So we set the name of the item, we set the cost that we receive the item at, and then we have the size that gets loaded into the system. Now the item number, so what we need to do is add in a so we need to add in I'm just going to go right here. So self.date created. So if there is if date created, right? If there is a date created, then we want to go ahead and set the date created to that, right? Else date self dot date created is equal to date time dot date dot today. So if they provide a date, then that's what we assign it as. Else we do the date today. Now I will need to format this accordingly later on, but so we'll just do so that's that down there. So um, so what we'll say is we'll do self dot date created is equal to we'll do set date created, right? And it's gonna take in date created. So I'm gonna take this and see, bring this over here. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll take this and make it a function within our class here. Hello to those that are here. I appreciate those that are here. I'll just stop real quick and say hello. Feel free to follow along to the channel, and I stream quite often here, almost every night. I try to, except for on holidays and things like that. I'm tired after work. But I'm just teaching myself Python through various methods, Python crash course, fluent Python, reading data structures and algorithms in Python, and we just, for the first 30 minutes of this stream, I was reading that, as well as machine learning in Python. I have a book here. I'm going to start that as well soon. So, but right now I'm working on just a personal project, a small business manager, taking in items, and I'm going to create hopefully maybe a user interface to interact with this kind of item management system, to formulate tax documents and things like that. I think would be really cool. So we're going to set the date created to date created. So I don't think I need to actually make this a function, because I'm just setting the date one time here. So we'll paste that here. So we're creating this instance variable, create instance variable for date created that user provide. If no user given date, use current date. Okay, so now in order to have this be logged correctly, we will need to add in, I'm going to just make a note here, like I'll say add catch for proper date notation, right? So we need to add that. Austin says, yeah, I love the consistency. By the way, I pop up in once in a while, and I just watch because I'm trying to learn as well. Awesome, Austin. What kind of methods are you using to learn? Are you taking any classes or courses online? You going to school right now, teaching yourself? I'd really love to hear what you're doing, and maybe I can, see if we relate on anything that we've taken, or maybe I'd be interested in doing as well. So yeah, could you let me know what you're doing? All right, so if the user provides a date created, we're going to set the instance date created to that user's provided date. Else, we're going to set it to the current date, right? And then we're going to set the quantity that the user provided to that, right? So by default, if quantity, right, we're going to set self underscore quantity equal to that, right? So if they provide that, else where else they don't provide it, so we need to set self dot quantity equal to I'd say just one in this case. If they don't provide a desired quantity for that item product, then they only have one item product in the system. So um, what's going on here? Why is it doing this? This thing, yeah. This. Sorry. Oh, no, it makes the whole line like that. Okay, so if they created, right, gotcha. So that takes in all of those. Now, I don't think I want to have individual files for each class. I want to keep it all under one. So let's just go ahead and copy this guy over. Delete that. And then this delete, say equal to 1, delete, boom. Okay, and then I'm going to paste this here. So right now, we are going to inherit via right here. Inherit, right? Item name, item number from, now I want it to inherit everything. So we have an item, and that item can then be transitioned into a for sale item, right? So a for sale item would have all of the same attributes. Item name, it would need to take the cost of the good. Okay. So let me just back this up. Comment these out, move them down. Right. Let's get done with. Let's move on from that. Okay, so Austin says, sure, thanks for asking. I just got accepted into a bachelor's in a computer science for equivalent through a VA program. I don't know where I'm going to school, though. I got to figure it out where I apply within a couple weeks. That's really awesome. Like veterans assistance. That's really cool. Where did you serve? Thank you for your service. Appreciate that. All right. So, yeah, we're going to take the item name, the item number. I'm just going to come over here, actually. I'm just going to copy. Oh, wait. I need an item number. Okay, so we need a new parameters to be date listed and listing price, right? Listing so we'll say listing listing price, and that's going to be a int, and it's going to, right? So it takes in listing price, and then we're going to take in all of these parameters from above, right? Like so. But I need to put my listing price above where the other required variables are. Okay, like so. All right, so what we just did for those that are might not be following is I created this for sale item class. So previously we have this item class. And when we initialize an item, right, we create the blueprint, we initialize the item, the object. We're going to give it a couple of parameters, right? These are like attributes that it has. Um, we're going to give it the attribute of a name, right? The item name. We're going to give it a cost. So we have a name. We have a name like blue shirt. We take in blue shirt, right? That's where we're adding it to our item stack. Um, it cost. We acquired this item for $5. We'll say so. Five is saved into here. 5.0. Item size would be filtered through whatever mechanism that the user would want when they I would implement this into some sort of script. So this is just kind of an arbitrary, just a size that you can filter and index, filter through and gain data from. But this would be the size of the item, right? And this is needed. You have to provide this. This is pivotal information. So you have to provide a name, you have to provide a cost of the item for tax purposes, and you have to provide a size. The item number is given automatically via some sort of mechanism. Now, Michael T says, "Hey, I have an interview coming up. How do I get better at dude? No idea. You're asking the wrong guy. I am teaching myself. I'm fairly beginner, kind of on the verge to maybe becoming approaching intermediate. But I'm on chapter 2 of data structures and algorithms in Python, the book, the textbook. And so I'm not the person to be asking. I'm only on chapter 2, which is going over classes and stuff like that, which I it's more of a refresh for right now, but I'm yet to dive into actual algorithms and the various effective ways and the trees and things like that. I know. So sorry, Michael T. This is a very beginner, but if you're looking to just have a chill place to refresh beginner concepts and build upon them as I progress, then feel free to follow along. I'd love to communicate with you more. All right, and cool name. Okay, so we take item name, item size. So for the number, the number needs to be unique. Now, in my previous projects, the task tracker, and in my inventory storage system for chemicals, that I had the data being stored within the class itself. And I don't think I want to do that this time around because I want the class to be completely like independent um, of like the script in itself, where the class can be used third party via anyone that desires to have these attributes. But before the task class or the item class in the storage system, those how are internally storing those items and have a bunch of methods to manipulate, order, filter list. Well, I need to have those be inside of the script rather than inside of the module because um, the module I feel is more of a overarching backbone for just getting the things set up, the objects itself, right, and how to deal with objects. But I don't want to deal with storing the objects in the class of itself because this should just be for creating objects. Now, did it work last time? Yes. Was there anything wrong with it? I don't know. I'm sure maybe someone that's more senior could take a look at the task tracker code on my GitHub and um, uh, I'm sure the could take a look at the code on my GitHub and tell me like you probably don't want to manage storage and data manipulation within the class rather than just do it in the script. Because I was making I think I was merging things together that shouldn't have been um, together, but it all worked. So it's definitely a good learning circumstance. But so here we go. So we're going to inherit when we move an item from just regular an item in our inventory, we're going to convert that item over to a for sale item, right? And I think what I'm going to do is in my script where I have this running and pulling from these classes, is there I will store the arrays with all of the items in them, or the list, right? And then and have the files be read and things like that. Uh, but the items will be transitioned from this portion into a for sale item into a sold item. So yeah, so item just basically means it's in inventory, it's in storage, it hasn't been listed yet. For sale means it's listed, and sold obviously means it's sold. So it's kind of like a three-step mechanism here. So we take so we're going to when we initialize this, we're going to super, right? We're going to super the dunder init method, and we're going to super all of the do we super self? No, you don't super self. So we're going to super the item name. We're going to super the cost. Good. Right, we're going to take that. We're going to super the item size. We're going to super, so the listing price is not going to be super because that's new. We're going to super the item number. We're going to super the date created. And then we're going to super the quantity and the date. So yeah, right. So the new attributes, this is what's a unique to the for sale item class, right? And I'm going to copy this, and this guy is as well, right? So then what we need to do is actually assign these listing prices. So the user needs to provide a listing price. So listing price is equal to, or we'll say self listing price is equal to the listing price, right, that the user provided, and then the self dot date listed is equal to the date listed that the user provided. So we are create instance variable for the listing price, right? And then we're going to and not create, we're going to copy this over, and not for the listing price, but for the date listed. Cool. So that handles all of those. So then anything else, the date listed. So yeah, so here we need to say if the user provides a date listed, so if date listed, right, we're going to assign this here. Else, right, they didn't provide one, so the self dot date listed is equal to the date time dot date dot today, right? So if no if date, so if no date listed given by user set to current date. Right, so this is like infers that when you're converting this over, that is the date that you are listing it if you didn't provide it explicitly. So we will need to create some sort of create a filter for setting the date automatically. I don't create a filter for setting the date. Create a catch for users given date in correct format. So I have a function in my task tracker application that I can pull from I created earlier that does this. I had to really look in the date time stuff to figure out how to use their function to detect that it needs to be provided in a certain format. I don't really want to look that up again right now. Right. So when we initialize, now everything is covered, right? There's no grayed out variables. So we have all of our variables are being set accordingly. Perfect. So that takes care of the for sale item class. So I'm going to delete this. So now we have a sold item class. Right. So I'm actually going to do it manually because I want to get practice. So class sold item, right? Which is going to super from the for sale item. Perfect. So what unique elements does a sold item have? A date sold. A listing price would be right. So I'm thinking of some future implications where if the user were to give a price, a listing price. So right, when you list an item in for sale, the item gets we super all of these, but we get a listing price here, right? Now, do we want to have a price sold that's just going to be the same as the listing price, but what if they got a discount applied or something like that? Now, obviously, we could handle these exceptions and these catches when we get down the road, but we need to be thinking about them ahead of time because we don't want to get so far down the road where if we make a change, we're going backwards and having to change everything that we've gotten to this point. If you're new here, by the way, feel free to follow along to the channel. I just use this platform to kind of gather my thoughts and hold myself accountable for studying and teaching myself in my free time. So if that's something that interests you, please follow along so we can interact and create a community. So the only thing that's unique for a sold item then would be the date sold, right? And if a discount was provided. Now, do I want to have a discount given in the class right now? I don't know. I don't know where I want to put that. So let's just say we'll initialize the class. I know I might be moving kind of slow for some people, but I like to really talk through my thoughts. I think it might help other beginners like myself to understand where I'm going with things, and also helps me to, it honestly really helps me to keep everything organized and by talking it through rather than keeping it bundled up. So we're going to take all of these guys, right? So I'm just going to take this whole thing here. Okay, so I'm going to take this whole thing here. So when we initialize the for sale item, right, when we convert a for sale item into a sold item, we're going to take the name, the cost of the good, the item. So we're going to now need to super the listing price, and we're going to need to super the date listed, right? And it might seem redundant, like, oh, why does the sold item need to carry over all this information? Um, well, once an item becomes sold, we can then access these individual dates, like the date created, the date listed, and the date sold, and we can create some really unique data for the business owner to reference, maybe for their own marketing terms or needs. So, like if they were to receive an item, or they were to create an item and load it into inventory on the 1st of January, right? And then let's say they finally listed that item and converted it for sale. So now it's given a listing date. Let's say that that was 6 months later. And then it finally sold 6 months after that. So it was a whole year before that item sold, between when it was received in, as an item and sold, right? So the user, then we could take that and say, okay, we could show the user, but it was 6 months overlap between these two dates, 6 months overlap between these two dates, 1 year overlap between total item acquisition. That's how long you held it in your hands, and that could tell the business owner, okay, I need to move quicker. I need to get these items out the door faster. I need to better streamline my selling methods. If we could show, okay, your X%, you know, greater this month than last month, for items out the door, all that kind of stuff. We can create all these kind of data points and statistical points for the business owner by carrying these items, having all these data points here. So now I was thinking about this. Now I want to know, Austin, if any of you are out there have an opinion. Would it be more beneficial to just have an item, right? An item class that has every parameter that the item would need from start, acquisition, for sale, to sold? Would it be more beneficial to have every parameter or attribute under one item class and then just edit those individual attributes when the time comes? Or convert these into these different subclass categories, keeping them distinct, kind of marking them into their bucket, right? And I can't think of any like pros and cons for either way. It just seems like you can do either, and it would work out okay, if that makes sense. Does anybody have any opinions on that? Right, so this would now take in, we would need to add in a date sold right here, right? Which would be a stir, and it would be given of a default value of none. Austin says taking the back seat on this one. No worries, Austin. Um, I don't know either. That's why I'm asking. Like, would it be? Well, let's ask the Jibbity. So, would it be more effective to have a single class called item with every attribute needed to track its data from acquire to for sale to sold, or split it into three distinct classes parent and two childs, parent and parent, child, 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 right? Each supering the attributes from the latter, from the previous, supering the attributes from the previous, and introducing new attributes. Whatever, we'll see that this is. Okay, so GBD says the choice between having a single class or splitting into multiple classes depends on your specific needs, the complexity of the data, and how you'll interact with it. Here's a breakdown of both approaches. A single item class contains all attributes necessary for the entire life cycle of the item, from acquisition to sale. Exactly. Simpler design, all data is centralized, making it easy to understand and maintain for straightforward use cases. Less overhead, no need to manage relationship between classes, ease of use. So this just seems very easy. Cons, overloaded attributes. Attributes only apply to certain states, acquisition cost for unsold items, sale price for sold items, which can make the class feel cluttered or hard to manage. Yeah, I guess not really that big of a deal though. Potential errors. Developers may inadvertently set or access attributes irrelevant to an item's current state. Right, so if the item wasn't listed yet and the user overrode, but I'm not creating like a module that's like mainly for other people to use. This is mainly for like my use alone, tailored to my script, right? So I don't know. Hey, Chase from Space, appreciate you joining in. Good to see you again. I appreciate you coming in. You're always leaving kind words in the chat. So thanks for coming in. And for those that are new here, please follow along to the channel. I like to stream myself, just learning and teaching myself through various books and online resources. And I've been teaching myself for about 5-6 months now. So option when to use. Your system is simple. Okay, parent-child classes. Define a base item class for common attributes and extend it to child classes that introduce distinct attributes and behaviors. Acquired item, for sale item, sold item, right? Clear separation of concerns. Each class focuses on data, specific behaviors for particular life stages, scalability. So it's just more complexity, managing overhead. Duplication risk. Some attributes or methods might need to be duplicated or redefined across classes depending on their use. Yeah. Interesting. So, Chase from Space, what we're talking about right now is I have an item class, which then has a child of a for sale item, which then has a child of sold item. Now, each of these introduces a couple of new attributes along the way, but I was confused. I wasn't confused, but I was contemplating whether or not to just have one class with all of the attributes and then have them be edited as the life cycle progresses, or have these items be converted into their different class units, depending upon what stage in the life cycle the item is within the inventory and the management. Right. So, but I think I like this way though. I think it might be fun to do subclasses, and I think it might be good to get some practice with subclasses. So let's keep it. So we super all of these items. We super date listed. So now we need to if date sold, right? We need to set the self.date sold equal to date sold, and then else, right, the date sold is equal to date time dot date dot today. So there you go. So let me just create, I need to add this catch back into here. So when we create that, we'll put it here. Create this instance variable for just a label for other people so they know where I'm at. Oh, shoot, Control C, Control V, there we go. And you might think I'm being excessive with comments, but I'm just doing these so people in the stream, as they come and go, they can read these comments. And although I know what's going on here, I want people that are new, that are stopping in, to be able to just get a quick read and be able to know what these lines are doing. So Chase from Space says, I'm sorry I may not have understood. What was your suggested alternative to this 3-level inheritance? Well, just one kind of master class item with all of the attributes that would have encompassed the 3 levels of inheritance, right? It's not like I'm manipulating these classes so much to the point where it really makes sense to have 3 distinct classes, but it might be fun to have 3 distinct classes to get practice with it, is what I'm saying. Because I could very well just put date sold, the listing price, and the date listed all within the item class, and then just individually access those parameters when I get to it. But I have it split up this way. So does that make sense? Hey Ganesh, thanks for joining. I appreciate you leaving a comment and stopping in. It's really awesome for you to do that. Just working on a small business manager application. Just really getting started, kind of setting up the bare bones here for taking in inventory items, managing them, computing sales, costs of goods sold, generating tax documents eventually would be really helpful, because I actually do have a small business kind of like this that I work on the side. So this would be a useful program for myself. So Chase from Space says, as you've probably figured it out, it depends on your use cases. Often people will say to avoid premature optimization, containing everything in a single class until it makes sense to break it out. Of course, like you said, if it's just for fun, then go for it though. Yeah, so exactly, Chase. It would definitely make sense just to keep everything in one giant item class, but I kind of want to get practice with different subclasses and things like that. So that's why I kind of wanted to do it this way. But definitely an option. Okay, so I'm going to then delete. Okay, so now instead of having 3 files, Austin says, I can't keep up. I love this though. Yeah, Austin, well, don't fret at all if you can't keep up. Like, it all went over my head. It still all goes over my head quite often. It's just like learning anything, really. You have to just keep repetitions over and over again, getting familiar with what these, like the flow charts of how these initializations are happening, and just keep at it. Don't discourage yourself. Just keep thinking. Just keep chunking away at it, and you'll just start to turn over. The light bulb will slowly start to fade in. Okay, so just to go over what we got here. So we have an item class. The item class takes in an item name, the cost of the good that we acquired at, a size, an item number, a date created, and a quantity, right? These are required, these are not required, because these have default parameters of equals to none, right? These do not. These have to be given by the user to set up or create an instance. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. I'm showing you right now, Ganesh, all day going through it. So we have an item name. We assign that to whatever the user assigns. We assign the cost of good to, we have this check float. I need to use the is instance here instead of that. So I'm going to do that. We don't need that. And then I don't need this here. I don't need that. Okay. So then we set the 3 parameters they give here that they gave, right? So item number is equal to whatever number they provide. I'm going to need to implement some sort of function here to determining an item number for within my script. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Because right now the item number can be none, and that can't be the case. But I don't want to set it. So if it is none, I want it to be able to be set to none. See, I don't have the items being stored within the class, so I can't really set the item number here. That's the thing. So when in my actual script, when I pull from these classes, I will store those items, and then I'll do a set item number function when the user provides an item number within my given class or my script. So Chase from Space says, you also may have already come across it, but the book Design Patterns Element Reusable Object-Oriented Program Software gets recommended a lot. I've never actually heard of that one. I've been just doing the Python crash course, data structures and algorithms in Python, and then I've yet to start the Fluent Python and Python machine learning. So I'm going to start those once I get through the data structures and algorithms book. Yeah, definitely use a counter for item number. So I definitely will use some sort of counter and implementing from the last item on the list, right? Incrementing depending on the last item in the list, the -1 index. But I don't want to do that here because I'm not storing the items in this class like I did in my task tracker app that we worked on previously that I already released on my GitHub. So if you wanted to see how that works and see all the code behind that task tracker app that does something fairly similar to this, but it's not going to have as much data manipulation, go ahead and check that out. Chase from Space says, also just a note, you often represent money as an integer in programs, meaning the number of cents and not a float, since floats can have weird arithmetic properties with computers. You often represent money as an integer in programs, meaning the number of cents. And some floats can have. Okay, so you're saying that if we're going to have a cost, we shouldn't have it be a float. Then how could we access the decimal points, Chase? If would we have to import, like, is there a currency module or something that would handle that? Or why? I can explain that more if it's confusing. The YouTube live chat is only for so long. Yeah. Uh, well, I understand why it would be if other programs and computers do different stuff with floats, then yeah, that would make sense. But how could I change this to an integer, right? If I put this to int, right, this is not going to give me decimal points. I need a float value, don't I? How would you handle math with decimal points? For money, for currency. Should we ask Jippity? Come on, Jippity. Best practices for dealing with money in programming in Python. Should you use floats, or can these cause issues? Other what was the other computers? When handling money in programming, using floats is not recommended due to precision issues that arise with for how long floating point numbers are represented in binary. These issues can lead to rounding errors, especially in financial calculations, which require exactness. Best practices for dealing with money in Python. Use decimal for precision. The decimal class in Python is designed for exact decimal arithmetic, making it ideal for monetary values. It avoids the precision errors inherent in floating point arithmetic. From decimal, import decimal. Price decimal. Oh, so you just give it a string. Avoid floats for monetary value. Okay, because so it will always hold. So it's like a calculator. It'll just hold that value internally. Store money in the smallest form and cents. For a simple system, storing monetary values as integers in the smallest unit, i.e. cents instead of dollars, is a reliable alternative. Performing all operations on integers and only convert the larger unit dollars when displaying the unit. So price in cents, what, 1999? So it's $19.99, right? So the tax rate is 7.5, and you do the int of the tax price, or the price in cents. You convert that to an integer. And then you divide it by yeah, you could, okay. Yeah, so I was just about to say, so what you could do is you could just keep it as an integer, right? Like, as if you're representing it as 1999, and you could divide it by 100 to convert it down to, um, or no, that would be convert from decimal over to a percent. So what do we have? Right. So you had 200 cents, and user asked for a cost of a good. There are only a few ways to handle this, but you could have a helper function that translates the integer value into a presentation format. Def format cents takes in cents. Dollars equals cents divided by 100. Return dollars rounded to 2 decimal places. Got you. So what you're saying is to create an internal function for converting the cost of the good from a string or an integer into a decimal point value, right? Or keep the cost of the good in terms of cents, like total cents, and then convert cents into dollars. Yeah, that might be that might be easiest to do. But then I would have to provide I'd have to provide the value in terms of cents rather than dollar. I don't want to have to convert it internally every time I go to input and I create an object, right? You should definitely store it as cents internally. What you do outside though is preference. Okay. So you take in a cost of the good, right, which would be given in an integer value. And this needs to be given in the total amount of cents and then can be displayed in dollars. But I'm trying to think of when I'm creating objects, I don't want to have to go, okay, I acquired this item for $5. I don't want to have to pull out a calculator myself, convert it to cents, create the object in my program, and then have it just display back in dollars. Hamza Patel, no, there's no goal, Hamza. Just learning for fun. Just teaching myself. I'm a formulation chemist. I have a bachelor of science in human biology and chemistry, minor in chemistry. With like I have a specialty in the chemistry side of human biology. And so anyways, my profession is in chemistry. I'm a formulation chemist for a biotech company, and I use a lot of mathematical equations, to solve various matrices and develop, you know, product manufacturing instructions and things like that for developing products. And I follow them. I have to follow them as well. And, you know, I have a lot of instances where a program could, do these repetitive tasks for me. So I thought it would be fun to learn programming, and now I'm down in this rabbit hole. So if it's something that interests you, please follow along and we can learn together. All right, so So Chase, you're definitely saying we should keep the cost of good, right? Any sort of cost in terms of we should keep it in cents, but how can I? No, Chase, this is great. These are things I need to consider, right? Because if I'm going to be working on these programs, I need to be thinking about it from all these angles, and I want to know how it would interact on different devices, and if floats are going to, have rounding errors and things like that. I needed to know that. So thank you for the advice. No, and that was completely warranted. Um, no, completely warranted. This is exactly what this is for. Is I don't want to just be constantly asking AI for the help. Obviously it's going to give me the answers I want, but if I'm working with other people, like in a group setting, you can really teach yourself and other people a lot of things. Key Lime has a fun game you can make. Oh, throw the suggestion. I'm all ears, Key Lime. Let me hear it. So if I don't want to though, so we need to determine how to deal with money. Do we want to stay in cents and convert to dollar via function, right? That would definitely be the easiest way to do it because you could just keep it in a whole integer value of like 1,000 cents. Well, for 1,000 cents divided by 100 cents would give you the amount of dollars, right? And then convert that to a float. Or I don't know, you probably wouldn't even convert it to. Would you even convert it to a float? Maybe, but sure. Well, your main complaint seems to be I don't want to have to constantly deal with things in cents because my brain doesn't think that way and the user doesn't think that way. Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Is when the user goes to create an object. So I guess I could create a function for like a regex expression, right? I could create a regular expression function for taking in the format desired for dollars and cents and then converting that over via split over the decimal point. I could use the split method to split across the decimal point and then, handle the cent side with a factor ratio of divided by 100 and then keep the dollar side as an integer whole value, right? And then I could just add them together, um, which that would definitely work, right? Well, yeah, actually, it wouldn't. I guess it wouldn't be that hard to convert to cents, right, in your head theoretically. I think I'm making this more complicated than it is. So let me pull out a sticky real quick. Oh no, sticky notes. Here we go. So what if if we have an item that was $5, right? Well, this is just 100 cents times 5. So this is 500 cents, right? So the user would have to supply this number. Or I would have to come up with some sort of function that if they were to provide the 5, split on here. So the function could be as simple as this then, right? It could just be, so like user input is equal to, right, input for like, right, price, right? Right, it'd be like that. And then you could just do, we would want to do, be like dollars, cents, right? Like that. Don't mind the auto thing. And then we do a split on the period, right? So you would split on the period, assign cents to the right side, dollars to the left, and then you could just like return dollars plus cents would give you, the total amount of dollars and cents, right? Because you would have 5. This would be like a string, right? This would be string dollars, cents. You concatenate the two strings together. This would give you 5 plus 0, 0, right? This would represent 5, and this would be 0, 0, and then you concatenate together to get 500 cents total. So that's how that would work. That would be one way of doing it, right? So chase from space, we got some messages here. Def 2 cents dollars string returns int and return. So int float dollars replace dollar sign times 100 def. Okay, hold on. So def 2 cents dollars return int float dollars replace dollar sign times 100. So you replace the dollar sign with a blank nothing. You multiply it by 100 and convert that float to get your amount of cents, right? Def to dollars, cents, and just return cents divided by 100 with the rounded to 2. Yeah. So that's definitely one way of doing it as well. You could just do the round. You could just do the multiplication, right? Which would probably be a better way of going about it is to do the multiplication method. This is just a visual method to represent, like, okay, we could split on the cents, right? And then, right, so this would be 500 cents in like string format, right? We could keep them in strings, right, essentially, and concatenate them in strings, and then convert this to like a return, convert int 500 here, right, into that return value. But yeah, does that make sense? Probably not the best way of going about it, but that's just the first way I thought, like an easy way to go about it. You could just totally split off and then concatenate strings together, because that would also be a conversion from dollars to cents. Not a mathematical approach, though. Anyways, yeah, we'll definitely need to keep that in mind when we get to it, but these are good things to actually keep in mind, because when we start writing the script and actually manipulating these data values, we'll see these errors arise, just like we did with the task tracker, and then we'll go back into these classes and adjust accordingly. But it's coming up on 9 o'clock here, guys, so I'm going to stream for about 7 more minutes, and then I will call it off, because I do have work. I do work full time, so I do these streams after work for, hopefully about 1 hour and a half to 3 hours about. That's what is my goal. All right. So if you want to be here tomorrow, please follow along to the channel so we can meet again. I'd love to have discussions again in the chat. It honestly makes these streams 10 times better when I have people to discuss these concepts with, because we both learn and we both get to practice. Okay, so what is the next thing we need to do then? We're kind of stalling here with kind of formalities. So we have our classes set up. So I guess it's kind of to the point where we can start, piecing together our program, our script. Now, I don't know if I want to. I think I'm going to attempt it once via the terminal, like I did with the task tracker app. Let me show you the task tracker app really quick here before I sign off, so you guys can have that as a reference. This task tracker app is accessible on my GitHub, and a link in the description. You can see all the code. It's completely public, and you guys can reference it and learn from it and see, how everything works. But this is the task tracker app I made, and so when you run the program, this program, it runs completely in the terminal via like menu systems I designed just through string formatting. So like honestly, it didn't take me too long because I've had some practice with it, but so you just use user inputs in the terminal. So like you would enter here, it shows you, oh, I had some pre-existing tasks that I had saved that actually expired on the 18th and 19th. So it has tasks that are saved via files and that can expire as time progresses on. We can view all the tasks. So as you can see, I have a task still, a final project, which is due on 11/26, so tomorrow. I can filter and see the priority rated tasks. So priority rated 1 tasks or filter. I can view the priority rated 3. There are none, so no tasks there. I can add a new task. I can give it 100 days to complete. I can view it. There it is, and it has an automatic due date assigned to it via date time, and these dates adjust when you load and close the program. Um, and that's how tasks obviously expire and get eliminated from the program. I can edit, those individual task properties with these, features. I just edited the title of that task we made, and I edited the days to complete. So now the task should have a new task title, and the days to complete is today. I edited it to today or to tomorrow, 1 day. So, and then that is found in the priority 1 tasks, right? It's filtered into the priority 1 labels. So this application is completely accessible on my GitHub, and you can check it out. And I think I'm going to try to do a first attempt for the small business manager software in the terminal via a menu system like this. And then once I get that solidified, I'm going to go ahead and use Python's Tkinter. I'm going to really grind through and learn. I started learning some of the basics of how to get the Windows set up and get things, some widgets and things like that. But I'm going to go through, really learn Tkinter and get a GUI, graphic user interface set up so that, people more generic, everyday users can use it, not, just people familiar with the terminal space, more of a desktop application. So big things coming here, so follow along if you want to see that. I'm going to hopefully my goal is to finish the least volume version 1 of this by the new year, and then work on the version 2, which will be the UI component shortly after that. But obviously, we'll be continuing grinding these books and doing those learnings on the side to continue my progression, but also these projects to practice. So then you can exit out of the program, and as you can see, those tasks were saved to our CSV file here, and then we can load back into the program, and those tasks will be, they will be seen again. So as you can see, this final project expired actually on the 19th, so it was removed out. Oh, that might be a bug actually. Hold on. Why did it detect that task was expired? Final project 11/19/2024. That's not the date due though. Oh, this one has like a weird date to complete, overridden by the due date. So I think it's just something happened. Something strange happened here. Okay, so let me exit here. So if I go task tracker, I run this. Sorry, there's a little bit of bug here I'm trying to figure out. So that shows that those 2 expired. I quit. Exit. Right. Final project. Data complete 1. So why did that update like that? Why did that update the days to complete when it shouldn't have? Let's do 11/26. Project. Tomorrow. Oh, because it's due tomorrow. Today's not the 18th. I kept thinking today was the 8th. Today's the 25th. That was just the date created. So if I go back to main menu and I exit, right, and I run this, well, final project should not be expired. Okay, I do have a bug. It's going off the date created. So, because it's saying the expire task it's due on expires on the 19th. So it's doing one, when it's loading back in, it's doing 1 day from the date created. I need to do 1 day from the um, 1 day from the date that the task was reloaded. So what this says is I have Git version control on this project, but I'm not using any version control on the other one yet. Should I set it up prematurely? Is it beneficial to have it in such a beginning stage? I wasn't sure. So what I have is, so check expired task. So this is update days to complete. So this is where it's happening. So current date is the date that opened for task. Days to complete is the date due minus the current date. So why is it if task days to complete is less than 0? So what's happening is when I reload the program, the date, right? So if I run this, if I is it? So this, it was created on the 18th. This is due the 26th. Today's the 25th. So this should still have 1 day to complete, which it does. So why is it when I run this program, is it showing me it's expired? So update days to complete. So we take the current date. So for every task in the tasks list, right, we update the task days to complete by taking the due date, and minusing the current date. So today's the 25th. So we take the due date, the 26th, minus the current date, and that gives us the new task days to complete. Right, and then we convert it back into a time delta so we can manipulate it in an integer format. So then check expired task. So for task in task, we create a new copy, right? If the task days to complete is less than 0, remove it, which is expired. Days to complete. Expired 11/19. It did not expire 11/19. It's so, but I'm not using the date created anywhere here. Am I creating a new instance of the, no, I'm not. I'm editing the instance, right? I'm updating it. I'm not creating a new instance. So if we update the days to complete, so that we take the current date. For every task that's in the task list, we take the days to complete, which in this case would be 1, right? We take the due date, date due. Date due would be 11/26 minus date current. It was days to complete, which would be 1. Exactly. There's 1 day to complete. So and then we convert this back into, because this is a date, we need to convert this into the number of days in this date delta range, time delta range, right? So this would be just 1 day. Update days to complete. Open main, we run. Yeah, I'm trying to figure this bug out. Thanks, Chase from Space. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in. I'm about to sign off here too. I gotta get off, but I'm trying to just see a general place of where this could be arising. Why is what is up with this? For task. So we update days to complete right here. We load the file. We update the days to complete for task in the task list. I don't like how it formats them. Why does it do that? Stop doing that. I don't like that. Okay, so set priority. So maybe it's with my check here. So check expired tasks. If tasks days to complete is less than 0. I'm just gonna print it right here. If I run this, oh, that didn't show me anything. Where is this bug? So So if I were to load this right now, it would technically say that this is expired. Why is it showing that this is expired? Expired 11/19. No, expires 11/26. So why is it setting date due? Because it's reading the file, it's reading this, it's seeing that it has 1 day to complete based off the date created, and it's setting it to date due. No, we don't want to set. I think it's happening within the reading files portion. So in the load task file, so right here, it's doing date created. Okay, it's loading those. Okay. Load task file. So due date is date created. Okay, this is where it's happening. So it's doing it off of date created. It's setting date due off of date created, right? So when it loads this task, it's setting this days to complete off of date created. I'm running update days to complete. So when we, this is getting tricky. So when we, date created is time delta today. So when we create an object. So when I load a task file, I set the title to the first spot. I set the date created to row 2, days to complete to row 4, and then I create the object. Okay, right? Save task file. So what? So the 18th, days to complete. It's reading this as 1. So it's setting date due to here as the 19th internally. So why is it setting my date due, overriding my date due based off of days to complete? Where is it doing that? Update days to complete. So it's doing it. So it's getting the date due right here. So if this is the 19th, theoretically, if this is saying that 19th minus the current date, 25th, it would say that this is expired. That's the only way that it could happen, is right here. So then it's reading my file incorrectly, because that's happening right here. So we load file and then we update the days to complete. So in the load file is here. So we set the days to complete and date created. So then what it does is it's setting it's creating that class and it's setting the date due based off of the days to complete that we provide right here, date due. So this becomes 1, this becomes negative in that case. So what I would have to do is I'm never using my date created in here at all, right? Will it show me if I close all these? Yeah, so I'm not accessing my date created anywhere. Anywhere in this. So what I don't need to have my date created being a pivotal factor for creating a new instance of a class. So I'm actually going to okay, so if I take that out, right, if I just take out the fact that date created does not need to be used when creating a class, so date created equals none if date created, if they provided one, due date is set off of days to complete, which is set here. So then if I go main menu, add a task, so that makes this now, that overrides the date created though. So that got rid of the bug, but that overrode that now when we save, it's writing the date created as it's overwriting it, right? So if I were to put that back, right, if I were to say date created, right? So now what happens if I provide a date created? If I give a date created, if date created, we convert it into a date time format. We set it to today if not provided in the format necessary. So it's self.date due, set date due. So it takes my date created, right? This is where date created is happening again. So it's setting my date crew off my date created. So that's where it's going wrong. it's setting date created off of the date due. I need to set date created off of set date due. Now this is update. Which then updates the task. So I would need to update the task for new days to complete. Set date due. Okay, so days to complete is equal to new days to complete. So update task. So I can use this guy here. So update task takes in self and takes in new days to complete. With the new days to complete, it overrides the old one and sets the date due and the priority based on the new days to complete. So update task. So instead of setting the due date here as date created, right? Using the date created, we want to use the due date would be essentially if they have the program open today. So if they have the program open today, you would add the days to complete to set the date due, to set date due. So that this would be use the date today to set the due date. What's the days complete? Right, so if I run this, do I have that task down there? Yeah. Didn't like that. So time.today. Right. So then if I run this, so task that day underscore due, date current. So this is going to give me this error again. Right, this is a datetime object. It says datetime date current. So this is the date, day, task, date due. Date due. Convert date time dot date time to okay, so we just go so now those are showing as date time elements, right? Okay, so now what happens? So now final project. Is saved as a datetime object. So let me go back to here. Control Z, here. So run this. I run, no expired tasks. Okay. Quit. Now I have to save. Okay, now what I'm getting, now the only bug I have is when I'm saving, I'm getting the object in a datetime element. I don't want a datetime element. I want so this is date due. So set date due. Date. Now if we exit this, run this, run, date. There's an attribute date. Okay, so I don't need this. Because I convert returning it the datetime element, the date element. Okay, so now if I run this, see this here, no expired tasks. View, display tasks, do task. So and then in display tasks, we need to set, there is no attribute date here. It's not a datetime element anymore. It's just a date element. Now we enter no expired tasks, queue, view, there it is. And then if we main menu, exit, boom. So then if I go back into here, edit this, one, no task expired, okay. Edit task property, that one, days complete, 100, main menu, view, main menu. So we're getting the, we're getting the time object still. Main menu, exit. Now it's saving the time object. It's overriding that. 100 days from the current date. So right, it's setting, returning, updating. Set date due returns the date object. Right? Set date due. So then what happens? Why is it converting? Takes in datetime.date today for task minus the task due date. Actually remove the calsay message. I'm going to put it above the if statement so that it displays no matter what. Um, so we need to figure out where our object is being converted from datetime to datetime. Will this auto open these? Yeah. So datetime.date today. So where everything's working appropriately, but when we run this, right, we're getting here, enter, no task expired, cool. So now we view, we're seeing the view. And then when we write, oh, maybe not. Oh, it was when I edited. That's when it happened. So when I went 1, Q, edit a task, edit that one, days complete to 50, right? Main menu, view. That's when we get it. So it's happening when we edit a task property. These are 2 days to complete. Update task with task to edit, right? And then the days to complete. So we run update task, and then an update task, we take the days to complete, set date due, and set priority. So then in set date due, we take datetime.today, return just the date off of that. So where am I getting time to open these up? Okay, so we have, let's so date time happens here. Date created. Datetime dot today dot date. No, so dot date today. Construct a date. Okay. So if date created, else date created, sign, date created. So where in our problem in our thing here, so if I go run this, run, none, view, right, exit. Okay, that nothing happens there. But when I edit the list, what happens when I edit, right? We've been over that. So when I edit task list, right, I press 1, edit task property. That moves me to here. I clear the terminal. I say, here are your current tasks. I display the tasks. I get the task the user wants. Hey, Toast.dev, I appreciate you coming in and leaving a comment. Thanks for joining. Feel free to follow the channel so we can stay in communication and contact. Yeah, I'm just talking pretty slow. I'm not really talking too loud. Here, I'll turn it up just a little bit. I kind of mumble. There you go. All right, so I'm trying to find this bug where it's when I edit an object, I'm getting the time element back. I don't want the time element back. Well, display tasks. So when I edit a task, I press 2 to edit the days to complete. New days to complete. We update the task with the task to edit, the days complete to edit, right? So update task. Once we update task, we do it here. We take in the new days to complete. And we assign it to the days to complete. We set the date due. Yeah, I currently just use my MacBook microphone. I probably should get a microphone to make it more official, yeah. I can't find this bug. I don't know where it's at. It's including the time element here. So when I go to edit the tasks, I was supposed to get off 43 minutes ago. I wanted to fix this first. So set date due takes in the time today. So actually what happens if I run this? What happens if I add a new task? Okay, so it doesn't. So adding a task doesn't do it. It's only when I edit, which is in set date due here. But set date due happens when I make an object. This is a great way of learning by streaming. I think Milky. Yeah, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm streaming so I can keep learning, and that's exactly the goal, Toast Dev. I appreciate the words of encouragement here, but I can't figure out. So date created. We're trying to. Why did the date due is being set somewhere? So let's look up date due. So date due is being accessed right here. Date. And right there for displaying expired tasks, but that's not expired. So where in my editing, so when I update, so I edit a task property right here. So say 2, here's the task to complete. Select the task to edit. Okay, update task with the task to edit the days to complete to edit. Update task happens right here, right? And we use date due here. Datetime.today. Oh, it's right here. Right there. I think that's it right there. So if I run here, so line task underscore class 162 here. I don't want that. Run this one, quit, view. So perfect. Now if I go main menu, add, or no, not add, new task. We'll just get through this. Edit, remove task, remove that one. So now we see have the final project task in there. Perfect. The due date's still 11/26 tomorrow. Got it. Main menu. So now if we edit the task list, we edit that one and we change the days to complete to 100 and view. Perfect. Now we're not getting that. That's exactly where the bug was. Awesome. We fixed the bug. Good job, guys. Woo! All right, we fixed that bug. So now it's not giving us that time element included in that date time object. We're only accessing that date back. So we were able to successfully fix the bug. So before we were noticing a bug that when we had pre-existing tasks in the file, and one of those tasks were we had a circumstance where the date created, it was still trying to determine if the task was expired based off the date created rather than the current date today that the project is being ran on, and comparing that value. So it was saying that, oh, it was reading this as, okay, so this, yeah, because today's the 25th, by circumstance, this has one day to complete and be due because it's due the 26th, right? But it was reading this as being due the 19th because it was it was creating the object based off of that date created circumstance, and I didn't want that. So we removed the objects being created from the date created, and thus had to manipulate that. There was another instance in one of the functions where the date created was being used to determine the due date, and so we did not want to do that. We wanted to use the current date because if they used a task, if they go to edit the task, we want to edit the task based on the current date for a days to complete, and then as well. So I think that works appropriately. But if we find some more nuance bugs here and there for like this was just a crazy circumstance because it was one day to complete, and today happened to be one day to complete before this was due, which, yeah, so it was just this weird circumstance that we found a bug by chance by pulling it up today, but we fixed it. So let's go ahead and go back. We can exit the program, and as you can see, that updated because we changed that before. So I'll just change that back. I'll clear this out, and I'll drag this forward. So this was the task tracker we worked on. This was a project I just finished up, and I'm just kind of debugging as I have this. You can check this out on my GitHub, but I'm currently working on a small business manager project I work on the first half of the stream. This was just showing, I brought this up to show at the end, but I noticed a bug, so we got caught up here. But if I go ahead and run my task tracker app here, we get launched into the program. As you can see, we are prompted with we have no expiring tasks that were previously stored. We move on. We can view all the tasks that we have currently, and as you can see, we have our final project, which is due the 26th, which happens to be tomorrow. So if I filter, I view the task list. Filter by task, priority one. That final project is there in that priority one task list. Um, and then we can add a new task title, new task, test, right? 100 days to complete. We can view that one's right there. It's 100 days from now in the future. Perfect. So if I were to main menu, edit the task list, edit task property, edit final project, edit the days to complete to 2 days from now, main menu, um, view task list, this due date would now be the 27th. Um, perfect. So now if I save, main menu, exit, right, that saved appropriately. This became 2 days to complete, the 27th. The date created remained the same. Awesome. The priority was updated to 1, or still remained 1. Everything's working appropriately, I think. So that is the task tracker app. So I'm going to call it here, guys, for the stream. So if you guys want to see me tomorrow, I'll be on stream. This one went a little bit longer than I had intended for 2.5 hours today. I was going to get off at 50 minutes ago, but we got caught up debugging. We all know how debugging goes. But appreciate the kind words in the chat today and all the help from Toast, Kerwin, Takato, Chase, Ahmed, Key Lime, Hamza, Ganesh, Austin, all you guys. Thanks so much for the comments. Michael T, appreciate it. You guys were great. Thanks so much.